Thank you. Thank you for nice summary of previous book. Yes, that book is Courage to be Disliked, and this one is Courage to be Happy. In the previous book, as I mentioned, the young person goes to a philosopher, not a teacher or anything like that. He's a philosopher and asks different questions, and he kind of grills him about how to um, do, and majority of this is Adlerian philosophy. That's what the philosopher is telling. So he is the third giant in the order of psychiatrist, we or whatever we call, like uh, in the psychology. He's the third guru for the psychology. So this book he released after 3 years. So he uses that and says the young man went back to the world, and he lived as a teacher in a school where he tried to implement whatever was told, like as Kalpana mentioned, separation of tasks and don't scold people. All those philosophies he starts implementing it. However, he got burned, and he was so mad about the philosopher, and he wants to shut him down by going back to him after 3 years. So that is the context he is going, because he was not scolding, he was not punishing people, he was not raising his voice because of the theory he told in the Courage to be Disliked. Kids are ignoring him, and he thinks scolding or punishing bad kids is the only way. How can you say that? So I will discuss with you and close your mouth for good about this philosophy. That's what the attitude he keeps. And he goes to the philosopher and says, whatever you said is waste, it's not useful for me, blah blah blah. He starts, it's interesting dialogue. Everybody will like it, because we can see ourselves in the young man's attitude. Whenever the philosopher makes a statement, he says, come on, give me a break, how can you assume like that, you are making me bad. So all those things he says in that one. And in this book he starts off, and he says, tonight we are going to discuss about it. So the previous one they discuss in 5 nights, in the previous book, which is the 5 chapters. And in this book they says we'll discuss about it. In this book he talks about the children and teacher's role, where teacher is a counselor as well as a psychologist. He mentions that. So the young man keeps bouncing on him, saying that whatever you said, it's wasted. Once I started scolding the bad students, then they are listening to me. The philosopher asked, is it staying? He said, well, not necessarily. So the philosopher asked, is the teachers who are scolding children or punishing children, are they happy? He says, no. So that's what he says. So pricing doesn't work. So that's how they go step by step. From there, he takes the young man from teaching and working with the kids and all those details. He starts working slowly. He goes to love. He says love is the main thing. The young man gets very sarcastic and says, "Love? What are you talking about, love?" He says, "Yes, love." And one question, one thing he tells, the philosopher says, is a lot of people think about a soulmate. I need to get my soulmate and keep looking for soulmate, or keep bad about what they have and other things. But he says there is nothing like that. It's only love, because love is between two people. You don't fall into the love, but you make love, because you are going to create that affection between the two people. He says it's like a business transaction. So from love, and slowly he takes, and finally young man agrees with whatever philosopher is saying, and he becomes Alderian. And at the end, philosopher says, I don't have any disciple, I am not a teacher, I am basically trying to give. And Alderian philosophy is similar, kind of similar to our Hinduism style. Alderian says, question everything, like don't blindly accept. I remember Harvecker is another guy who came into my life, and he used to say, whatever I tell, don't believe it and don't reject it, examine it. That's what he says. So a lot of times we, that one I don't care, or we blindly follow. Instead of that, Harvecker says, don't believe it, don't reject it, examine it. So that's what he says, and finally they close the book, and then they give the epilogue about the book, why he wrote the book, and how the first book became the very popular. So he wants to close it with this book as a sequel, because he didn't plan to write the second book, Courage to be Happy, which reminded me about the book Happiness is a Choice. I mentioned multiple times. Happiness is a Choice by Barry Neil Kaufman. He also says happiness is a choice which we have to choose. It's not going to happen. Being happy, uh, there is a quotation on that one. Let me start the presentation. So, as the book says, the final lesson on choosing joy and the power of love. It's a feeling. Happiness is a feeling. That's what they says. It's not like something else. Happiness is a choice. So he says happiness is something that happens to you. It is a proactive decision you make. We need to make the decision to be happy. That's why a lot of meditation sometimes they says, like if you are familiar with the Habil, in that one he always, whenever we go into Shavasana and then comes out, he says, say three times, I'm happy, I'm healthy. I'm happy, I'm healthy. So happiness is nothing, not something you postpone for future. It is something you design for the present. That's what Jim Roth says. Another great guy, Jim Roth or Jim Ron maybe, Jim Ron. If you wait for the good things to happen to be happy, you are a slave to your environment. Happiness is an internal task. So again, here instead of blaming everybody, as we talked about Wayne Dyer, he says instead of giving prescription to all your relatives, you take the prescription and you become well. It's not like other people make you well. So goal of life is self-reliance. We need in the book he talks excellent way about self-reliance. He mentions that we need to help kids to become self-reliant. For that he tells beautifully, when the kid is born, infant, he has only one tool, which is crying, to get the attention from the parents. So from there, once he starts growing up, he doesn't get the same attention. So to get that attention, the kids start acting up. If we don't understand, they go in a different direction. He gives a 5 steps. I didn't capture those, where the kid is, how he goes into five different steps, 5 steps, and he explains that in the book. So he says all teachers or parents have to do is make kid self-reliant rather than dependent on you, where we think of pricing, we always look for price. That's what he says. Adlerian terms, self-reliance means deciding your own value without needing others price. However, in the previous book or this book, we kind of depend on other people, or we praise the kid or we criticize the kid, and it comes into our life continuously. Even in the employment, we want someone else to prize us, or someone else does something, we feel bad. It doesn't matter. Self-reliance is different. You take your own value. So that's why he says seeking prize is just another form of vertical competition, as Kalpana mentioned in the from the previous book. We think of vertical thing because we always compare, he is better than me or he is lower than me. That is vertical relationship. Instead of that, if we consider everybody as a comrades, like in our meditation, Patriji mentions that we are all masters. The day you learn about meditation, you are a master. That's what Patriji mentions. He repeatedly says that we are all masters, we are all equal. And he doesn't even, I don't know, majority of you know him, but he doesn't even allow anybody to touch his feet. If you touch, he will touch your feet. That's the humbleness he has, and that's how he treats everybody as master. The minute you learn about meditation, you are a master, and we consider everybody as a masters. So that is where we are going into horizontal relationships instead of vertical. And oh, Patriji is so great, I am so low. We don't need to compare that one. Move from what will people think of me to what can I contribute. That's what we need to do. That's the biggest shift we need to do. And Wayne Dyer says, I cannot always control what goes on outside, but I can always control what goes inside. So I can change. Even Gandhiji says, be the change you want in the world. All problems are relationship problems. That's the main theme of both books. It says all relationship problems are between relations, and also joy. That is the thing we forget. All joy is relationships to joy only. Where do we get joy? Because we talk with other person and they chime with us. That's where the joy comes. So it goes both ways. Joy comes from relationships, and also pain comes from the relationships. When relationships cause the greatest pain, they are also only source of greatest happiness. Separation of tasks is very important. We need to think about whose task is this instead of meddling in their life or allowing them to meddle in our life. Separation of the task is very important. This is my job. I will change myself. I don't need to control other person or um, monitor other people. So Jerry Jampolsky, again, same person which whom I mentioned, is another great book he wrote. Love is the only reality. Everything else is a call for help. That's what he says. If somebody is acting up, they are indirectly asking for help, which is again going back to nonviolent communications, where Marshall Rosenberg says we need to figure out the need behind the request. A lot of people ask for request, but we don't catch the need, what they are looking for. The need is here, is the call for help. Help me or love me. That is the need behind the request. But request comes as a demand. Why are you coming late? So that means the other person is thinking of having company with you. But we look at, oh, why is they are asking like that? They can also come late. Why are they bothered about me coming late? So we go into that thing. Instead of that, that's why I mentioned nonviolent communications is another great book where we find the need is behind the request. The task of love. Love is not falling into a feeling. It is a task or a decision. It is a move from I self-interest to we social interest. A lot of people also mention that we need to think from other people's perspective, like everybody collectively growing. Only love is real. Everything else is an illusion created by the mind. That's what Brain Weiss says. Brain Weiss is another great soul who did a lot of research. He's a doctor. True love means being interested in another person's interest rather than using them to satisfy your own needs. This is what happens. We always think that our parents might have done that, but we do the same thing to our own kids also. We want them to fulfill, like I want to be a doctor in my childhood, which I didn't fulfill. So I push that desire to my kids, like you need to be a doctor, you need to be a doctor. But luckily in US, a lot of kids go in different directions. I think we are breaking it as much as possible. Yeah. And again, here he says education is an encouragement. We encourage people rather than enforce or um, do something else like pressure them or anything. We encourage them. That's what he's selling here. The concept is whether you are a parent or a boss or a friend, your role is to encourage, not to praise or rebuke. This is a big thing in nonviolent communication. Again, praise or rebuke, they also talk about it there. The greatest gift you can give to another person is purity of your attention. Respect the other person as they are without trying to change them. This is the ultimate form of radical acceptance. Yeah, which we did radical forgiveness. There also respect the other person as they are. Lot of times we want other person to be like me. Like if I watch some movie, I push the other person to watch the movie. Oh, that movie is so great. You need to do see it. We put so much effort to push them to same as me. Um, so and the book says here and now, always here and now, which is a lot of other books come to mind. But happiness exists only in the present moment. You cannot become happy. You can only be happy. So again, Wayne Dyer is to say that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience, not a beings having spiritual experience. No, no, no. We are all spiritual beings having a human experience. Joe Dispenza is another great author. You said that you are the placebo. Your thoughts today create your biology and your reality tomorrow. Joe Dispenza wrote the biology of no placebo effect. I think placebo effect. So here I put both together here. Both books are compared, where primary focus of courage to be disliked is the foundation, and courage to be happy is implementation. So primary focus of the foundation is freedom, is learning to live without the need for others' recognition, whereas in happiness is learning how to live in a harmonious thought of task of love. So the past doesn't exist. That's what the main previous book talked about. There is no trauma or anything that doesn't determine your future. That's what he says. A lot of people may have qualms about it. I encourage them to read it because I cannot give the justice about when he says reject the trauma, because I don't have a trauma. That's a different issue. But people who went through, they may have some attachment. By reading the book, they can reject the trauma and become happy. And here it says choosing your life here and now, regardless of previous patterns. Relationships, same thing. Separation of task, no meddling in others' business, or not allowing others to meddle in my business. Then he says building we, moving from self-interest to shared life with others. Loka samstha sukno bhavantu. That's why it says, even somebody says, everybody needs to be happy, and one I need to be among them. The task, seeing others as a comrades instead of enemies, as we see masters. Patriji says master. Self-reliance is determining your own value based on your contribution to the community. For this one, I remember Stephen Covey used to say, life is to learn, life is to love, life is to leave a legacy. He always used to say that. Love, learn, and leave a legacy. Social view, the task of the work and the task of a friendship. That's what we need to look at it. The task of love is the most difficult and rewarding human endeavor. Happiness is a brave act. It requires the courage to trust others even when there is no guarantee they won't betray you. It requires the courage to contribute even when no one is prizes you. That is the presentation, but I'll add some more. So it's an act of growth basically. Phase one is breaking the vertical relationships, which is disliked. Most of us are raised in vertical systems where we are either prized or rebuked. This creates a desire for recognition. That's what he beautifully mentions. Children are fighting with us because they want to be recognized, even to the extent that if we are punishing them, they want to be unique. You might have seen people like that. They just rebel because they want the attention. Caroline Miss says why people don't heal. In the book name is Why People Don't Heal. In that one, she says people want to be different. People want to be recognized. That's why we see in America like different hair color, different tattoos. All those things is to show that they want to be separate. They want to be recognized in among all of us. So that's where this thing comes. So instead of going pricing or rebuking, we need to balance it out. Establishing horizontal equality. Disliked or happy. Once stop competing, you can see other people as equals. And Ravi Shankar or Satsai Baba says the same thing as love all, serve all. The phase three is courage to love, which is happy. Love is not falling or happening. That's what we discussed already. It is a decision to build something with another person. This mirrors brainwise. I mentioned before. Brainwise teaching that only love is real, and the ultimate purpose of soul's journey. Brainwise did a lot of research in the past life regression, and then he has stories about how two people. He does past life regression, how he finds out that both of them are related before. He does past life regression individually, they are not at all related, but he was able to connect, and then Many Lives, Many Masters is the book name. You may like to read those. Phase 4 is a social interest and contribution happy. True happiness is the feeling of being useful. When you contribute to the community, the core tenet of Patriji's pyramid society and Deepak Chopra's laws of success, you validate your own worth without needing anyone for the approval. The first book teaches you how to stand alone. The second book teaches you to that you never actually have to. Be separating your task, you find a freedom to truly love. And as we conclude, let's look at the big picture. Ichiro Kishimi. He is the author of the book, Ichiro Kishimi, and another person helped him to write the book. So there are two authors, but main concept is Ichiro Kishimi. Tells us that we must have the courage to be happy right now, regardless of our past. And another thing comes to my mind is Robert Schwartz, who wrote Soul's Plan. In that, he says you are deciding that your happiness is a contribution to the world, not a selfish act. That's all for today. I think I ended up 5 minutes early. Thank you.